Hello and welcome back to part 2 of converting a hand knitting pattern like this into a machine knitting pattern like this. Now, last time we concentrated solely on getting a stitch conversion factor sorted out, which we've now got. This time we're going to set that aside for a bit and we're going to look purely at transcribing the knitting pattern as it currently is into instructions for a knitting machine, but we are not going to change any of the stitches, sizes or numbers. We're just going to get exactly the same instructions written out minus any of the patterning, the stitch patterning stuff, and just purely for the sizes, and also written out in knitting machine instructions. Now, to do that, I've created another sheet and I've made a start, and I will talk you through the start, and then once we get past this bit, I will then start doing the rest of it in real time. Now, let's have a look. Firstly, I've got a column for my instructions, and then I've got 3 columns for 3 different types of numbers that I'm going to use. Those are the things I'm going to do calculations on, and then a final column for the end of the instructions. You don't actually need 3 columns for stitch rows and measurements, but I personally find it easier. You'll see when we start to convert the actual numbers. So let's make a start and go across to the pattern and have a look. So our first thing is we're going to do the back. So in a minute I shall put in the title. I've put in the title back, and if we have a look, the ribbing is relatively straightforward. I'm going to use the smallest size for this particular thing. You can use obviously whichever size you need to use. So it says cast on 106 stitches, and then it's got 2 rows of rib. If you have a look, it's 2 by 2 rib, and then repeat the last 2 rows 6 times more. So that's a total of 14 rows of rib, and then you have to decrease 1 at the end to get to 105 stitches. Let's go back to my spreadsheet and see how I've done that. I've literally written cast on 106 stitches, knit 2 by 2 rib for 14 rows, decrease 1 stitch, and then whenever you're doing this, you need, if you're subtracting or adding stitches, you need to put the total that you have left at the end, because we're going to multiply this by some numbers and we may get some rounding errors. Okay, so that's the ribbing done. Notice, by the way, up here I've put back. Okay, easy. That was literally just write it out, more or less. Now, going back to our pattern, we have got masses and masses and masses of information about doing a stitch pattern. None of this is relevant, okay? We're going to look at patterns another time. So we're going to ignore all of this, and actually the only relevant bit is this bit here, which says continue until the work measures 49 centimetres from the cast on edge. Now, going back to our spreadsheet, you can't do this on a knitting machine. Knitting machines, you can't measure the work on the knitting machine. You can, but you'll end up with a jumper for somebody much fatter and shorter than you intended it for, which probably would work well for me, but that's not the point. Okay, so this instruction here, continue stocking stitch until the whole piece measures 49 centimetres. We are going to have to do a row conversion on that. When we get to part 3, that's exactly what we're going to do. However, going back to the knitting pattern, we've now got to shape the back neck and the back shoulders. Okay, now this is where we're going to have to start doing a bit of translation. Okay, because it says working pattern for 73 stitches, and then you put the last 41 stitches you just worked onto a stitch shoulder, and then working pattern to the end. Okay, so what this is saying is we're going to ignore the middle 73, or sort of the first 73 stitches, and only work on the last 32 stitches. On a knitting machine, let's go back here. On a knitting machine, we're going to do that with holding pattern. Now, you've got to start from one side or the other. I've decided to start on the right. It doesn't matter. You could start on the left. You've got to start on one side. But we're going to start on the right, and we're going to put 73 stitches on the left-hand side into hold. And we're going to, let's have leave 32 stitches in working position. Okay, so now we're only working on the 32 stitches on the right-hand side, and we are have the carriage on the right hand side still laced up with the yarn. Let's go back and have a look. It says decrease decrease one stitch at the neck edge on the next 5 rows. Sorry for my terrible fingernails, by the way. I've been working on knitting machines. That's just the way it is. Decrease one stitch at the neck edge on the next 5 rows, and then carry on straight until it measures 51 centimeters from the edge. Let's have a look and see. Decrease one stitch on the neck edge every 5 rows until the whole piece measures 51 centimeters. And there we go. All right. Going back to the pattern, we have now got the shape shoulder. Cast off 13 stitches at the beginning of the next row, work one row, and then cast off the remaining 14 stitches. Going back to our spreadsheet, that is what we've got. Cast off 13 stitches on the right hand side, work one row, and then cast off the remaining 14 stitches. So what I'm going to do now is I'm now going to carry on, and I'm going to be typing it in live so you can see how long it takes. I hope this bit has been helpful. I'm going to change to actually a previous video, and we'll join it now. Let's just have a think about this. So what we've done is we've decreased the neck, so we've produced a little bit of a sort of V style neck, and then we have made the shoulder come in at a tiny little angle, only 1 row's worth. And now this has got us casting off stitches. We do have an additional option with machine knitting, which is instead of casting off, it is simply to knit some sort of 5 or 6 rows of waste yarn and just have little tags of waste yarn. And it slightly depends how they are going to be joined together. So this cast off and this cast off, there is a choice. You could cast it off and then sew it together, or you could put it onto waste yarn and do it that way. That is just a choice you're going to make. You know, it's up to you. I'm going to say cast off, but I might well make a different decision whilst I am actually knitting it. Okay, now we've got to do the other. So going back to the pattern, okay, work is given from the other side. So we've now got to go back and do exactly that. So we're then going to go break yarn and put carriage on right hand side. Okay, and then we're going to have put 32 stitches on left hand side back into work. Okay, so now we're on the left hand side and we're going to put the 32 stitches on the left hand side back into the working position. Okay, if you don't know all of these methods, then go and check out my Knitting Machines for Beginners. There's a whole bit about splitting and holding position and so on. Then we're going to do exactly the same thing. Okay, we're going to copy and paste. Okay, and we are going to cast off 13 stitches on the left hand side. Knit one row, cast off the remaining 14 stitches. Lovely. Okay, that is the back done. Okay, so the back is now complete. So next bit is the front. Let's have a look and see. Now, the good news is about the front is that it's exactly the same as the back, but with one slight difference. Okay, so I'm going to copy and paste the entirety for the front. And the only difference is, if we have a look at the front, let's go back to here and have a look at the front. Okay, we work except for until the work measures 44.25 centimeters, and then we carry on. So going back to here, 44.25, and again, every other measurement is exactly the same. Okay, so the back and the front are now done. Let's have a look at the sleeves. So on my spreadsheet, I type in sleeves. Okay, And then we're going to have a look at the sleeves. Where are they? Sleeves, make 2. Okay, cast on 54 needles. And then we're going to do some ribbing. Okay, so going back to here, going to cast on 54 stitches. Okay, and then rib in 2x2 ribbing for. Now, you could be doing mock rib here, you could be latching it up, that's up to you. Again, there's some choices, but if we go back and have a look here, it's 2 rows, repeat the last times, 2 rows, 6 times, it's another 14 rows, and it is, then we want an odd number of needles down to 53. So going back to here, we're going to rib in 2x2 ribbing for 14 rows, and then we're going to decrease 1 to 53 stitches. Okay, sorted. Let's just justify these off to the right. Okay, let's go back and check out our pattern. Now, again, we've got diamond patterning, but I'm not interested in the diamond patterning. We're doing 1, 2, 3, 4 rows, and then it says increase 1 stitch at the end of the next and every following 8 rows. Okay, so it's, I'll go back here, we're going to knit 4 rows, so knit 4 rows, and then it was increase 1 stitch at the end of the following and every 8 rows. Let's go back to the pattern. Until there are 75 stitches. Until there are 75 stitches. And then increase 1 stitch. We're going to tidy all this up, by the way, at the end of every. Let's go back and have a look at the pattern again. At the end of every 10th row until there are 80 stitches. Every 10 rows until there are, and what was it? Let's go back and have a look again, until there are 83 stitches. Okay, 83 stitches. Then knit straight until the sleeve measures. Let's go back and have a look at the pattern. 45 centimeters from the end. Okay, so 45 centimeters, cast off loosely. Okay, right, perfect. Last bit, if we go and have back and have a look at the pattern, is the neckband. Okay, so we are just going to go back to the spreadsheet and say the neckband. I'm just going to put that on the left hand side. I'm also going to put that in bold as I'm going to do that, and as I'm going to do that, and as I'm going to do that. Okay, back, front, sleeves. I'm going to put in colon and neckband, and then going back and looking at the pattern for the neckband. Okay, it says with the right side facing, using 4mm needles, pick up and knit. Hold on, firstly join the right shoulders. So okay, let's go back to the spreadsheet, and first thing we're going to do is block all parts. Okay, so it needs to be the right size. Okay, and then join and it's, let's go join the right shoulder seam. Okay, so now it's these pieces will all be the right size, and we will have joined this is just the front and the back. It's a drop sleeve sweater, so the sleeves aren't attached here. So we're going to join the right shoulder seam, and then we need to go back here, and we are going to pick up and knit 20 stitches down the left front neck edge, 41 stitches from the front. Okay, fine. So pick up onto needles. Okay, so let's go back and check. First one is 20 stitches down from left front neck and 41 stitches from the front neck. So going back here, it is 20 stitches from left front neck. Oops. What's the next one? It was 41 stitches from front neck. Again, my knitting machines for beginners will show you how you pick these up. Let's go back and have a check. It was 20 stitches up the right front neck, and okay, so what was it? 20 stitches from the right front neck, 20 stitches from right front neck. Let's have a look at the next one. Going back, 10 stitches from the right back neck, 41 from the back, and 10. Okay, so going back to the things, 10, 41, and 10, and that is stitches from right back neck, stitches from back neck, and stitches from left back neck. If you put all these onto waste yarn, you are literally picking the stitches up and hanging them back onto needles, and if you cast them off, then you're sort of hanging the cast onto that number of needles. You could do a combination of the two. Also, I'm going to go up here and say with wrong side facing, because that's what we're going to do. Right, now we've picked up a whole pile of stitches now, and going back and having a look at the last little bit of the pattern, it says there's 2 rows of 2x2 rib, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, 7 rows in rib. So knit 7 rows in 2x2 rib. This is where, if it's only 7 rows, I would be extremely inclined to not do this in mock rib, although you totally could. You could do 7 rows, then a loose row, then another 7 rows, and then cast off and then fold it over and stitch it in. That's completely acceptable. But I would be quite inclined to knit 7 rows and then unlatch and relatch them with the latch tool. To that end, you might want to, on your first row of rib, knit in a ravel cord, just so you know exactly where the last row is, or you can count really carefully, whatever. Okay, so that is the original pattern with all the original numbers just popped in to my spreadsheet. And in the next part, what I'm going to do is I'm going to abandon this entirely, and I'm going to convert it to the right numbers. And then we're going to talk about what happens when you get decimal parts of numbers and doing the rest of it. So this is part 2. Part 3 is turning it into a proto knitting pattern for your actual machine, and we'll take it from there next time. Thank you very much. Goodbye.